Alright, so this is going to be my entire testimony. I'm not going to skip any details on this testimony except for the possible words of knowledge that I give, because some of the words of knowledge that I've received from the Lord Jesus Christ I do not have the luxury to share because they are too personal. And I do not want the person who these words of knowledge were about to say, why would you share that? So some of them I'm not going to share. Some of them I will. I apologize, I'm kind of burping a little bit. That's why my head's going up and down. Um, but first off, I got saved very young. I'd like to say that it was about 3 years old, but we don't really know offhand. But I can tell you right now that it's definitely been 20 plus years. And I want to say my time in church, up until the point I was 18, I was going to church because that's what mom and dad did. You know, it meant nothing to me. And actually, from probably about age 13 all the way up to 20 years old, I had an addiction to pornography. Not pornography in the sense that you would think. It's not like I was looking at bare skin and whatnot, but I would literally go on my computer and just look at women. So I equate it as pornography because it was the same sense. Um, and when I turned 18, I became a gospel rap artist, but the story behind that's interesting because I grew up and I hated rap. I couldn't stand it. You know, I'm a country kid. I live in the backwoods of Pennsylvania, put it that way. And I guess everything changed when I discovered I had a knack for it. And I remember telling myself, I'm like, I know I'm good at this, but I hate it because of what it stands for. And so one day, when I was 18 years old, I went on YouTube and discovered that there's a Christian industry of this music. And so I kind of immersed myself into it. Like I went into it big time. And I started recording my own music independently, and it got to the point where people from different states were recognizing who I am. Just to give you a picture of this, my first ex-girlfriend um, is all the way from Georgia, okay? And I'm all the way up here in Pennsylvania. And that's how she knows me. If it wasn't for that, she wouldn't know who I am. Um, And so, when I was 18 years old, around the same time, I got a job working within a Pennsylvania's driver's license center. And as my name began to grow in the industry, I had people that would come off the streets in the closest city to me and say, well, you're the guy from Facebook and YouTube. And see, some of these guys and girls, like, I didn't even know. Like, these are people off the street. And that was when I started to realize what Jesus Christ was doing through me, even though I was recording music just to have fun with it at the time. And then, it just completely changed. The whole scenario changed. Now I'm doing it for 300, 400 plus people. And later, within that same time stint, I want to say 20 years old or so, um, I started working with people that have been signed with labels. Now, I was never signed with a label, but I've worked with people within labels. Um, did shows for about 200 people, maybe 300. Um, and the one thing I did forget is I was supposed to die at very young. I came out of the NICU. I was meant to be born in April. I was born on February 19th, 1993, to cerebral palsy, um, which I kind of lucked out because my purpose in life is to preach. And some of these people with my disability can't even preach or even speak. So, definitely God knew what he was doing at the time. But back to the story. My ex partner that I said earlier was going through a rough time, and at that particular time, she was just part of my family. I started, the view on the body of Christ just completely changed when I was about 18 to 20 years old. Because Jesus gave me the revelation, this is your family. And so, from that point forward, I'm now 29 years old, on the way to being 30. From that point forward, I started to view the church as my own family. So now I'm to the point where I don't care what state you're from. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what country you're from. I'm going to love you. I don't care if you spit in my face all the live long day. I don't care. I love you anyway. And it was so funny because today I was talking to the Lord about it. And I said, God, I don't understand why I love people that just cut me out. Like, why do I even care about this situation in my life? Because it's now been 6, 7, 8 years since it happened. And I'm sitting here realizing that I still love her as family. I don't love her the same way that I did. Matter of fact, I never loved her romantically, personally, but she basically wanted that, so I was going to give her a chance. Then something happened, and I'm gonna skip over that. But I was sitting here realizing, God, why am I like this? Why do I care about people that don't even care about me? It doesn't even make sense. Like, why do I still care? And he says, because when you care for someone like that, it's not you who cares for them, it's me. It's you, it's me coming out of you. And I'm like, well, it sucks. Yeah, it's a gift that God gave me, and for the most part, I enjoy it. I have a love that most human beings don't have. And I'd like to say that it's on par with supernatural level. Because even I don't understand why I love certain people. And so, going back to the story that I was telling, she was my friend. My ex was my friend at the time. And I saw her as my family. But I wanted to go back to that particular situation so that you had some background on it. And she was going through a hard time with her mom. And I decided that I was going to write a song for this go and record the song. Because at the time, my fan base was probably only about 100 to 150 people. And at the time, I could do that. Uh, as time went on, I could not dedicate songs to people. Um, because I became so immersed in the industry that I just couldn't do it anymore. And before all this, when I was about, well, yeah, I have 4 years of the United States Air Force ROTC, and after that, it was about 22 or 23 years old. I went into the United States Air Force Civil Air Patrol, which used to be separated from the United States Air Force. As of 2015, they are no longer separated. However, we are we're not allowed to claim to be veterans, even though on paper that's what we are. As of 2015, we actually had the commander Maxwell on the video call, and that's what he told us, that we were part of the United States Air Force now. But just so you could tell the difference, they kept the original name for it. Um, and so I went in there and I served for about 4 years there. So I spent 8 years of my life into a military environment. Um, and my ex got sick, so I left and just never went back. Um, and it was probably, give or take, 24, 25 years old. I lost my job at the PennDOT Driver's License Center, because of my faith, the fact that I was speaking of my faith in Jesus Christ. It was interesting because I came to the realization that I was going to either leave or I was going to lose my job for my faith. And I remember sitting in the cubicle at one point, and I said, Lord, what do you want me to do? And he told me to leave and go get my degree so I could teach his people. And I can remember going home and I told my mom and dad I'm gonna leave my job, and they didn't like that too much. So I stayed because they didn't like that too much. And I ended up losing my job anyways. I look back on it now, and I think it was, I don't want to call it disobedience, because it was because of my parents that I stayed. But in one sense, I think it was my disobedience that I didn't do what he asked me to do, that I actually lost my job. Because he said, okay, you're not going to do this, I'm going to do it myself. And so I lost my job. And a little bit before that, the ex-partner that I told you about earlier, there was a prophecy given about me and her. That prophecy is that we are supposed to be married now. Some prophecies have conditions. She has since left me. I have not spoken to her in about 7 or 8 years. Now, this is a different scenario that I was talking about earlier, different person. But, since that's happened, I've had some very, very strange things happen to me, and I'm going to tell you these things. And this video is probably going to be quite long because of it, because I'm not going to leave anything out in this testimony. This is what you're getting is uncharted, cut and dry testimony here. This is real stuff that happened to me. And after this prophecy was given, I had strange things happen to me. And I'm talking about people would come into work and tell me things about my relationship that happened that very same day, hours before, and I never saw them in my entire life. So then you fast forward through all those signs. Now I am trying to shorten this testimony up for you so it's not any more than an hour. But it was interesting because when I was about 18 years old, I got baptized at 18 years old. And instead of it coming out of the water and speaking in tongues per se, I inherited prophecy and word of knowledge. Now I know this because of the things that happened. From that point forward, I started to hear voices when I would pray. And it was many years that, I was troubled by it because I was trying to figure out what it was. Because what happened is these voices would tell me things, okay? And I quite literally would sit there and watch them happen. But I kept these things to myself until a former friend of mine who actually used to help me with this ministry. If you follow my ministry on YouTube, you see a guy in a couple videos that's not me. That's my former friend. But he came up to me and called me one day and he said, can you do a conference call with me and a friend of mine? And come to find out, this person was a minister in Titusville, Pennsylvania. And so I'm sitting there on the phone with these two people, and the next thing that this man says is, I don't know what you have, but I know you're in a wheelchair, and I'm telling you, one day before you die, you're going to get up and walk. And then a few minutes later he says, you have voices in your head, and you're wondering what that is. And I said, yeah, how do you know about this? And he says to me, he says, when you pray and you hear these voices, because honestly guys, that's what activates it. If I don't pray, then I don't hear this. So he says, when you pray and you hear these voices, that is the God of Israel, or that's Satan. You have to decide which one that is. And at that time, I was like, okay. So a few minutes later, he says, this is 2017, guys. Okay? He says, oh, and you will be a forerunner of the Christ in the very last days. And if you take the word forerunner and put it into the Greek, it means the word prophet. If you take the word prophet and you put it into the Greek, it means the same thing. It's interchangeable. The two words are interchangeable. And it was at that moment, fast forwarding a couple of years maybe, I began to hear things about people when I would pray for them. And they would be 100% accurate because I would go to these people either on social media or my phone, and I would literally tell them something about their life that they never saw and or never said, I should say. And these people would be like, I can see you're a man of God. How do you know this? And I would explain to them that sometimes God gives me things about people that I shouldn't know. And it was at that moment that people started to question my mental capacity, because all these signs and wonders that were being done in front of me and through me, they were unbelievable. And I will tell you some of them, but I won't tell you all of them. And so when my first ex left me, it was right off the cuff of the marriage prophecy is what it was. And again, I believe that it was a conditional prophecy because it's now been 6 or 7 years. But essentially it was told to me that she was going to be my wife. And God threw sign after sign after sign at me on that. And people started to question my mental sanity and all that. And then, to put things on top of it, I started getting words of knowledge concerning people. One day, I told a woman all the way in Nevada something that she did when she was 18 years old, and she's 35 now. Now, I will not disclose what she did on her 18th birthday, but that is because it's personal and I don't have the right to share that. Another one that I could tell you is that I told a woman in Chicago that she went to the grocery store and she never said nothing of it. I also told that same woman some events that happened in a former relationship that I will not disclose again because they're sensitive. And then at one point, I also told a person that their parents were gone. She had nothing left, like it was just her. And it was accurate, actually. And if you fast forward maybe a year or two, one of my exes, she had a parent who had some health issues, and they ended up passing away. But just before they passed away, the Lord told me that they were going to pass away, but I did not tell her because I did not want to hurt her. And if she sees this video at some point, I will come out and say, I apologize, I didn't tell you. But I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you. And then there were other scenarios in which I had knowledge about. One is connected to a person on the other side of Pennsylvania that I also won't disclose the details on. But there were other scenarios that I cannot remember, but there are so many words of knowledge that I can't even count them. But the most recent scenario that I have of words of knowledge is two people in Kenya. Actually, one's in Lebanon, but it's from Kenya or Africa somewhere. These two people are from Africa, and I'm not going to disclose what was the deal behind that, because it's not my right to share it. But I'm telling you that what I told these two people, I'm all the way over here in the United States, and I told people all the way in Africa, two people, all the way in Africa, what happened between them. Okay? And again, I'm not going to disclose what the details were because it is not my place to do so. But yeah, it's just been completely crazy, and I just lost everything for my faith, guys. Once the words of knowledge started coming in, I lost my family in a sense. I've lost my friends. I've lost my job. Everything. I don't have anything else, guys. Like, my family in Christ is all I got. That's why I will say one person's name on this video, because I'm gonna send it to her anyways. That's why my friendship with Elizabeth is so important, because I don't have anything else. Like, I've lost everything. The only reason I'm not on the street is because of the fact that I live with my family right now. But the reason why I say that I lost my family is because there's so much disagreement in here that you wouldn't believe it. And again, I'm not going to go into details about that, but because of that, in another sense, I've lost my family. I don't have anything else. I've lost my way of life. I've lost my friends, my family. In one sense, my sanity in public. People call me nuts and crazy, all that stuff. But after recent events, I'm telling you guys, there's no way I'm crazy. Like, this stuff really did happen. Matter of fact, in one sense, I predicted COVID. I can remember it was August 2017, 22nd day. And my former friend who went to a different Bible school than I did, he called me. He says, Lee, I feel like something bad's gonna happen in the United States. Can you pray and try and find out what this is? Because I know you hear from God. I've seen it, you know. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna guarantee nothing, but I will try because what you're asking. Um, and the next thing that came out of my mouth was something in the United States is going to be so bad, it's going to be worse than 9/11. And later on, after COVID hit in 2020, the mainstream media, now I understand that mainstream media is lies and such like that, but um, what they end up saying is it's caused more deaths than 9/11. So that was the fulfillment of that prophecy. I have also told people one time what was going to happen in the next couple of days, um, and it actually did happen a week or two later. A person that was my friend's friend asked me to pray for a pilot's test. And I heard the Lord say to me, He says, tell him he's going to pass with flying colors. And it was so interesting because it was probably a week or two later. My buddy from the other school called me. He goes, do you remember that prophecy you gave about the test with pilot school and all this stuff? I said, yeah, what about it? And he says, it happened, just as you said it. And it was profound. I mean, it was profound. And then now I understand also that there's some controversy behind the election. I'm not here to, at this point, bash the election, but I am also one of the people who said that Trump was going to win again. If you look at the facts, he actually did win, but of course the mainstream media doesn't want you to know that. And my testimony is just so profound that you wouldn't be able to wrap your head around the things that I saw. When I was about probably 20 years old, I actually went at least into the dreaming sense. I had a vision of hell. And I'm telling you guys, it's not a place you want to go to. It is so black you can't even see the hand in front of your face. And all you do is you hear people screaming so loud that it is actually deafening. It just the screaming alone is scary. Yet you feel so alone. It's not even funny. It is like you're the only one in hell, but you know you're not because all you see and hear are screams. And yet the pain is so surreal. It's not even funny. I remember the whole time I was in there and I was having that dream, I'm literally screaming to God. I says, God, you need to get me out of here. You need to get me out of here. Because at that time, I felt so separated from God. It wasn't even funny. I mean, it was bad. I can't even describe how this feels. Like, there's no words that I could say that would describe this. And also, there was one point that I was dreaming once, and I woke up. Well, I didn't wake up, but in the dream, I was in the bed, like a biblical sense bed. It was an old timey bed, like they would have used back then. You know, you're sleeping on hay and all this stuff. And I woke up on the bed, sat up. Now, here's the interesting thing. Physically, I'm lame. But in this dream, I was completely normal. Walk around, everything. And the ironic part is, most of the dreams that I have, I can walk around. Typically, when I'm dreaming, I am not lame, which is interesting. But I sat up on this bed, and there was a bald man at the, you know, the not the foot of the bed, but you know when you sit up on the bed and you have that length of bed in between the foot and the bed and the head of the bed. I sat up in there, and right in front of me there's a guy dressed in white, bald, you know, just bald, dressed in white, and he says, "Get up, prophesy." And I'd like to say that I didn't purposely do this. I think this was part of the dream. But I laid back down and I began to close my eyes again in the dream. And I'm telling you guys, like, I heard the loudest voice I've ever heard in my life. And it says, "Don't sleep another moment and get up and prophesy." And the dream ended. And at that moment I got up. I was lame again, but I was like, "Okay, what do you want me to prophesy?" And it's like, "I want you to prophesy about the Jews." I'm not going to say what that was, but that dream was so profound it wasn't even funny. I can remember another dream in which it was the presidential election, and you know they had this big auditorium, and they have, you know, Joe Biden and Donald Trump on each side of the auditorium. Joe Biden on the left and Donald Trump on the right. And I can remember that in this dream, they were both doing the debate, and it was interesting because all the people, if not most all, left Joe Biden's side of the auditorium and went to the right side of the auditorium. And then it woke up. And if that wasn't speaking of the election itself, I most definitely know that it was a prophetic dream now. Because even when you go into the mainstream media and you watch the news, people are turning against Joe Biden like crazy, even in his own party. Okay? So either that was speaking of the election itself, or it was speaking of both, or it's speaking of what happened now. And I can remember another dream in which there was a big city building, like the ones you see in Philadelphia and the major cities, 30 floors high, that kind of thing. And it had the American flag draped over it. And I had this Russian tank came up, blew the building back, like blew it up. American flag wrecked, disappeared, all that jazz. And then the next thing that I saw was the Soviet hammer and sickle draped over the same building after it was rebuilt. Now, they say that the path that the nation is taking now is one towards communism. And so I look back on it now, and I believe that was prophetic to what is happening now. But now you fast forward, and I believe you're seeing that prophetic words said about me being a forerunner of the Christ in the last days. You're seeing that come to pass now, or at least start to, because I'm back on social media. I was away from social media for a very long time, but I'm back on social media. I'm in a Christian group that's about 2,300 strong, and I feel like I have purpose now. See, up in the years before this moment, I felt like I didn't have purpose. Okay? I felt like I went to school for nothing. Okay? And that's the other thing, too. My schooling is completely a miracle. Because God called me to go into ministry a long time ago. And it was back when I still had my job at the license center in Pennsylvania. And I can remember, like I told you, he said, leave your job, go get your degree and teach my people. And I can remember at one point, because he said this to me multiple times, and I can remember I said, okay, I'll do it when I retire. Because I was going to leave when I was 35 anyways. And when I lost my job, and he told me to do that for the last time, as I told you before, I think that was him saying, nope, you're going to do this now. And looking back on it now, I realize why. Because if I would have stayed and I did not get fired for my job, for my faith, and from my job for my faith, I had that backwards, it would not have, I would not be doing this right now. So no, I don't get paid to be a minister right now, but I think I'm fulfilling that prophecy now, because the eyes of the world are on me, quite literally, because we have people in Lebanon, we have people in Kenya, we have people in the United States, all 50 states, we have people in China, we have people in Uganda, we have people, you just name it. I have friends and people that I consider family all across the globe. And I think that's what you're seeing now. And I'm trying to be as humble as I know how, because, it's just the reality of the situation. My mind is blown. To me, I didn't get into ministry because I want to make money at it. I went into ministry because I love you guys, every single one of you. the people on YouTube that follow me on YouTube, the people in the group, every single one of you guys. Like, I love you guys. And I would give up my life for you. And I know that sounds like a lot because I'm just saying it on the video, but I mean it. And and especially the people with military background and similar to mine. There's camaraderie there. Um, and it's friends like that I can't replace because, in one sense, they're my family as well. And I don't really know how to describe what's happening now because my mind is just completely blown. I have all these people in the mental health industry saying that there's something wrong with you, you need drugs and all this kind of stuff. But evidence speaks otherwise. And I don't even know where to begin, guys. Like, this is the reality of my life. I don't have anything else. No money, no family, no job. I mean, I have money, but if it wasn't for my family, I would be on the street right now. And that's what I want you guys to realize. Is people say people in the United States don't suffer as Christians. Well, now the reality is coming to the surface, and even people that aren't as dedicated as I am are suffering in the slightest ways. But I mean, guys, I've lost everything. And so the reality is, what are you going to lose for your faith? The Lord wants obedience over sacrifice, but the reality of it is get ready to lose everything. Because the reality of the situation is, now God is saying, I drew a line in the sand. On one side I write earth. The other side I write church. And you can't have 1 foot in the church and 1 foot out of the church. You pick a side. Now, what side are you going to start? What side are you going to pick? I know what I've chose. And I've chose the church. Even though I don't go anymore because of circumstances. My heart still resides with the church. The church is my everything. I give up my life for the church. And I would lose everything I've lost now 2 times over. I'd do it again. Because I pick Jesus Christ over anything. Okay? That's the reality that we need to get to. There's no room for lukewarm Christianity anymore. Okay? It's time to get real and ask yourself, what is my faith gonna cost me? 5, 10 years down the road. You might not have lost everything like I have at this point, but you're gonna have to ask yourself that question. What am I going to lose because I believe? What am I willing to give up because I believe? Because that time's coming. People that are on fire, such as myself, we're already losing everything. But see, if you're not a threat to the kingdom of darkness, then he's going to leave you alone. But as soon as you're a threat, he's gonna hit you and hit you and hit you. I've had my heart broken 40 times, and I still love every single one of them. And that's part of the reason I don't understand. Why do I love people I hate? You know, I don't hate them. I kind of said that backwards. But I asked myself the question, why do I love people that hate me? Because I don't understand. It's just the reality of it. I don't understand what makes me love people that hate me. And I know that at this point in my testimony I might repeat some things, but I need you guys to get this. Okay? I sincerely love you guys, and I can't change that. What you do with the love that I give you, it's up to you. Whether you love me back or you spit in my face, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, well, whether this video makes you laugh or whether it makes you laugh in mockery or whether it makes you cry in repentance or makes you cry because you realize that what kind of love is in me. It doesn't matter. All I know is that everyone that watches this video, I love enough to give up my life. And again, that might sound like a lot just being said on the video. But see, when you see the church the way I do, and you see your life as nothing, and the gospel is everything, you don't think twice about it. Because all you want to do is get people saved. All you want to do is love people. And again, the reality of the situation is that you might call me crazy. You might spit in my face. It doesn't matter. I love you anyway. You might laugh. Doesn't matter. I love you anyway. See, when you get to the point that I've reached, people kind of say, oh, you have the martyr's mentality. No, I love my life. But I'm kind of like Paul. I count everything as lost for the gospel of Jesus Christ. Romans 1:16, I am unashamed of the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's why I do everything. That's why I can tell you guys that I love you without even being sexually involved with you. That's why I can give you a hug when, you don't want me to. That's why I can love you even when you don't. That's why the people that spit in my face I can forgive. That's why I do everything. Everything boils down to my faith. Okay? And when you realize that your faith is more important than anything, you begin to adopt a mentality that I must decrease so that he might increase. I'm not saying that I don't struggle with pride. because according to prophecy, I am a prophet. I don't call myself a prophet in public, but according to prophecy, that's what I am. And I'm seeing the evidence of that. Okay? So when I tell you this, I'm being as humble as I know how. But I'm telling you, this is my life. You guys are worth my life. Okay? My faith is worth my life. And the last thing I'll say to you before I end this video, because we're about an hour, is that I love you guys, and there's nothing that you could do or say that would change that. You could block me to all your Facebooks, you can cut me off and all your phone numbers, you can block me on YouTube, you can do all this stuff with me. And it wouldn't matter. I would still sit here, and I would still pray for you, and I would still love on you. Okay? Love is a choice. It's not something we do that we want to do. It is something we want to do, but oftentimes it's conditions. I love you if. Do you see what I'm saying? Me, it's like you're a creation of the Christ, and if you're in Christ, I love you, and there's nothing that can change that. You could sit here and mock this video because everything I told you is true in my life. You can sit here and tell me everything I saw and did was a complete delusion and all this. You could sit here and call me a false prophet because quote unquote Donald Trump didn't win. I wouldn't care. I'm still gonna love you. Okay? And I know some of you, after you see this video, you might sit here and call me that. But you know what? That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is, how do I treat you? Okay? Because when we get to heaven, there's gonna be rewards. And you're gonna get yours, I'm gonna get mine. But you know what? When we reach heaven, it's not gonna matter. Because what's going to matter in heaven is we're there to worship the Christ, and we're only there to worship the Christ. I'm not saying we're not going to have a good time. But what I'm saying is, all this stuff that you might say to me about this video or about me behind my back because of this video, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to spit, love to you. I'm still going to love you. And that time that I spent in the military environment, 8 years of my life, I had sergeants up my butt, yelling at me, all this kind of stuff. Elizabeth would get it, okay? But if I can deal with them, anything you say about me, I'm gonna let it roll off my back. Yeah, sometimes it hurts, but I'm still gonna love you.